This is the third lesson in Unit 7. I guess I'm going to call this Lesson 7C. And there's some information that I need you to get written down in your notebooks. All right, here is the list of rules that we've been working on dealing with exponents. I have written these out in what you'd call an algebraic form because I'm using variables instead of numbers. I want you to get this list written down in your notebook so that you can refer back to it. The first rule we learned was x to the a times x to the b equals x to the a plus b. If this doesn't make any sense to you, please go back and review the first lesson we did. Next, x to the c divided by x to the d is the same thing as x to the c minus d. That was also the first lesson that we did. Moving on, x to the q quantity to the r is equal to x to the q times r. Fourth rule of exponents, x to the 0 is equal to 1. X cannot be equal to 0. And the last one we have this far, the distributive property for exponents, the quantity xy to the t is the same thing as x to the t, y to the t. Put this on a page in your notebook. I'll zoom out so you can see them all. And leave a little space at the bottom because there are a few more things that we are going to add to this list. Let's get started. We are dealing with negative exponents this time around. A negative exponent, for example 2 to the negative 3, means you have two things to do. First, put your term in the denominator of a fraction, and second, make the exponent positive. What on earth am I talking about? Well, take a look at these examples. Okay? 2 to the negative third. First, put this in the denominator of a fraction, and second, make your exponent positive. So 2 to the negative third becomes 1 over 2 to the third. And if you simplify that further, it becomes 1/8. 3 to the negative 2 becomes 1 over 3 squared, which of course is 1/9. If we move to working with variables, a to the negative fifth means 1 over a to the fifth, and you can't do anything else to that because you don't know what a is. Okay, I'd like you to turn to page 415 in your book. I know you haven't had to use it for a day or two. Find Got It number 1 and do A through E. They're very quick, and then we'll come back and check your answers. Letter A, 4 to the negative 3, 1 over 4 to the third, which is the same as 1/64. Take a look at letter B. Trick question from the last unit. Anything to the 0 power is 1. Moving right along, we've already done this one once. 3 to the negative 2 is equal to 1 over 9. Let's keep on going. D. 6 to the negative 1 is equal to 1/6. What's letter E look like? Two steps. Negative 4 to the negative 2 means 1 over negative 4 squared, which of course is 1/16. There you go. So I stuck in a vocabulary word, not quite in the beginning of the lesson. We should have had this vocabulary word, I don't know, back in September. Simplified form means no other operations can be done. You can't add anything else, you can't multiply anything else. From now on, simplified form also includes you may only have positive exponents. That doesn't mean you have. Now, continuing on page 415, I would like you to take a look at Got It number 2, very bottom of the page. They're looking for the simplified form of each expression. See what you can do with those. Don't struggle. So letter A is easy. It's just x to the negative 9, and you know what to do with that. There it is. Letter B, we've got a double, I don't know what to do with that. Okay, 1 over n to the negative 3. Well, you know that 1 over something is another way of saying that you're dividing by something, right? So this is the same thing as 1 divided by n to the negative 3. And you know that n to the negative 3 is the same thing as, there we go, 1 over n to the third. So now we have 1 divided by 1 over n to the third. And from this point, it's much easier. You've been doing this kind of math for years. What do you have to do when you're trying to divide by a fraction? Well, flip and multiply. 1 times n to the third over 1, which is the same thing as n to the third. You might need to go back and watch letter B again. You're going to run into this problem a few times. So letter C is very straightforward. They've given you 4c to the negative third b. Well, you're going to put the negative exponent in the denominator, just like that. So when I said you might want to go back and watch letter B again because you were going to need it, did you realize that I meant you were going to need it for letter D? 2 over a to the negative third. Let's go through all the steps again. Same thing as 2 divided by a to the third, which is the same thing as 2 divided by 1 over a to the third. Shift the book up. Same thing as 2 times a to the third over 1, which equals 2a to the third. Last but not least, n to the negative 5 over m squared. Well, n to the negative 5 has to go to the denominator, but you can't leave a nothing up here, so we have 1 over m squared, n to the fifth. I'm on page 416, looking at problem 3. Let's start using this for a little bit of more practical stuff. They give you this 3s cubed t to the negative 2. And they want you to figure out what this is if s is equal to 2 and t is equal to negative 3. And there are 2 ways to tackle this. Method 1 is to simplify this part first. There's not a lot of simplification you can do. Basically, you just put the t squared in the denominator of this. But now, at least it doesn't look quite so ugly, and you substitute in the numbers they give you. S is equal to 2, t is equal to negative 3, and then do the math. Or, sliding this way, you can substitute first. Same problem, 3s cubed t to the negative 2. Go ahead and put the numbers in first. 3 times 2 cubed times negative 3 to the negative 2. And you keep working, and you end up with exactly the same answer. Some of you are going to prefer one way, some of you are going to prefer another way. Sometimes one way is clearly easier than the other. The important thing is that you get the right answer at the end. Take a look at Got It number 3 and try letter A through E. important things left to say. First of all, this looks like a ton of classwork. All I want to do is keep you busy for the whole class. I don't expect that you're going to finish all of these problems. I expect that you're going to work hard for 45 minutes. Unless you come up to me and say, do we really have to do all of that? In which case the answer is yes. Yes, you do. You can do what's left over for homework. The other very important thing I have left to say is there is some added bonus material at the end of this video for the algebraically curious. All right, there are a couple concepts that I didn't want to require of everybody, but I want to put out there because I know they'll help some of you. Question number one, why does a negative exponent work this way? Well, it's following the rule that we have already practiced. You know that 3 squared times 3 cubed is the same thing as 3 to the 5th, right? Okay, watch this math jujitsu. If this same rule is true, then 3 squared times 3 to the negative 2 should be equal to 3 to the 0. We know what 3 to the 0 is equal to. That's equal to 1. This is where it starts to get fun. So we know that 3 squared times 3 to the negative 2 equals 1. Look at this as your equation. And then divide both sides by 3 squared. So you can isolate 3 to the negative 2. Look at that. 3 to the negative 2 equals 1 over 3 squared. Pretty cool. I know, you're just going to have to let that soak in. You can thank me later. I understand. Finally, this is something I want to bring to your attention. Consider the difference in the way these things are written. What do these different things mean? And the answer is it could vary depending on who you ask. Be aware that in the book, they consider these two things to be different problems. I think these two things are the same problem. And if they want the answer of -1/4, they'd better write it this way. The book disagrees.